I'm State Representative Ross Hunter. I represent the 48th Legislative District, which is parts of Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, all of the Points communities, and a tiny little bit of Issaquah. And this is my end of session wrap that'll be up on the website for quite some time as we are entering into a phase where we can't do a lot of updates on the video. So the first thing you have to talk about when you talk about this legislative session is the impact the budget had on the session. It was almost all we worked on. This is the worst budget problem this state or any other state has had since the Great Depression. We are down about $12 billion in our revenue estimates from the end of the last two-year budget cycle, and that's almost a third of our revenue. That's caused wrenching changes in how we do budgeting and in the level of cuts that we made. Last year, we solved about a $9 billion problem with about a third cuts, somewhere between $3 and $4 billion in cuts, included laying off 4,000 state employees, laying off 3,000 teachers statewide. Here in Bellevue, we lost over 60 teachers, and that resulted in a class size increase of 2.5 to 3 kids. And we have a lot of research that shows that kids, particularly our most at-risk kids, do very poorly as the class size gets larger and larger. So we made a lot of cuts in actual service delivery. We made cuts in health care. Over 40,000 people lost their health care as a result of this budget. These are big changes. This year, we solved the remainder of that $12 billion problem, about $3 billion, with more cuts, around $500 million in cuts, more people laid off. We've gone to a furlough system for state employees where 1 or 2 days a month they won't be working and they won't be getting paid for not working. We've eliminated all of the cost of living adjustment and raises, so people really aren't getting raises. The level of cuts proposed in the governor's budget in the fall, where she's required to produce a balanced budget that doesn't depend on any new revenue, were such that I was unwilling to go down that path. We would have had to take additional teacher layoffs, thousands of additional layoffs of teachers, because our K-12 expenditures are over 40% of the state budget. We would have lost tens of thousands of additional healthcare slots. We would have had to completely eliminate our entire scholarship programs for higher education, pretty much curtailing middle income and lower income families from sending their kids to college. And I just wasn't willing to do that. We included about $800 million in a modest revenue package, a pretty small fraction of the $12 billion problem that we solved in this year's budget. Our solution on that revenue package was to start off and focus on closing corporate tax loopholes and to do a little bit of temporary tax increases on some consumer products, on pop and beer, to try and tide us through and have those go away as we come out of this recession. Our entire focus when we're doing this was really trying very hard to preserve jobs in Washington. And so, for example, when we added sales tax to candy and gum, much of which is imported from out of state, we wanted to be careful to protect our manufacturing jobs in state, so we offered a countervailing tax credit on the B&O side to make sure that we were really trying hard to protect jobs in Washington, but still raise the revenue to provide the platform that enables businesses in Washington to hire quality people and enables our kids to get educated.
You did have a couple big wins this session. Do you want to talk about those?
Well, when I first ran for office in 2002, I had two things at the top of my agenda. And the first was I wanted to rewrite how school funding worked so that normal people, normal legislators, normal parents, normal taxpayers would be able to understand a school budget. Today, if you looked at a local school budget, the Lake Washington, the Issaquah, the Bellevue School District budgets, they're documents 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. And I've spent the last 8 to 10 years becoming an expert in school budgets. I find them, quite frankly, incomprehensible. The state budget is a little simpler than that, but not much. Is filled with arcane formulas. Over the last 2 years, we have completely rewritten these formulas to make sense and to describe the kinds of things that school districts purchase on a daily basis. How many librarians we would have in a school with 400 kids. How many teachers? What's the class size? The goal on this was to measure exactly what would go into a school and make sure that we were providing enough money so that we're actually providing a basic education. This has been a labor of my entire political career, and it really came to a culmination in the last 2 years. As we come out of this recession, we will be much smarter about how we spend the new money that will come in, and we'll be able to rebuild in a smarter, more effective way than the way that we were spending the money before. So that's the first big win, the thing that I've worked on the most time over the last 8 years. The second big thing, and people were working on this for a decade before I got into the legislature, is the 520 bridge. We've finally come up with a preferred design alternative. We've resolved all of the hard problems about what the design looks like. We have a funding plan in place for about half to 2/3 of the bridge construction. And we have largely gotten acceptance from all parties concerned, except for a couple of neighborhoods in Seattle. And I'm not convinced they're ever actually going to be happy. We will be building this bridge. We will start next year with construction on the east side phases, and those are funded. Big, big deal, very hard to get done. There were a lot of interests that really didn't want to have this bridge happen, and the entire east side delegation worked together to make it happen. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we did, and I'll be very pleased in 2014 when the new bridge opens. I'm always willing to answer your questions. Love to hear from you. My email address is hunter.ross@leg.wa.gov, and it's probably appearing on the screen right now. And again, I'd love to get your questions, your feedback on where we should go next year and how we'll continue to work our way out of this economic development problem.